Welcome everyone on day one here of our CyberXchange. My name is Michael Castro. I'm a founder and president of RiskAware. I run a cybersecurity boutique specializing in cybersecurity for small, medium businesses. I have the great pleasure of talking today about the CSCU course from EC Council. You know, really this is a course, and what we're going to learn over the next little while is a little bit about this course. If you are a security veteran, this is not the course for you, but there's definitely a lot that can be learned in a course like this for those that are seeking to become a little more vigilant as it comes to cybersecurity in their workplaces or at home. It is an excellent introduction for those that really know very little or nothing about the cybersecurity world. The reality is, and as we know, as we all sit here in our little COVID houses and our COVID condos with our COVID hairdos, is really the world hasn't changed when it comes to cybersecurity, and really the threats are still out there. And you know, cybersecurity is so important for organizations. But one thing that is true about cybersecurity, as we continue to see the attacks and the daunting challenges put upon individuals like myself and organizations, is the fact that those threats continue to happen. And those cyber hackers and those cyber thieves tend to target the weakest link. And you know, the reality is, even in war, as we can see from this phrase from centuries ago, you have to strike at what is weak. And when it comes to security, users are definitely the weak link. So, you know, why is that? Why do we have these weak links? Well, they target it obviously because, you know, those are the users that, you know the least, don't know how to protect themselves, don't know what they should or shouldn't be doing when it comes to things. So we're seeing large numbers of phishing attacks, of malware, all these things that really take advantage of people's lack of knowledge or lack of ability or lack of skill to really understand what's going on in the cybersecurity space. And so that weak link, and they're going to target on that. And phishing is a great example. It is the #1 threat vector, but phishing is an example where, you know, these thieves and hackers can go after a lot of people and hopefully find a weak link in that bunch that are able then to help them achieve what they want to do, is ultimately is fraud or deception or stealing of valuable stuff. So, you know, there are a lot of things for people to learn. There are a lot of pieces, and you can see them all on your screen. There are a lot of pieces that people can learn when it comes to the type of areas that pose a threat. And, you know, these are just a sampling of them, but you can see there are a lot of areas. And, you know, by goodness, you know, there are a lot of areas that any person could fall victim to, because it's an area that someone else is taking advantage of. And, you know, the user on the other end is not an expert in these sections. So what do we do? Well, as users, we really, it falls upon us to really know how to protect assets and how to protect ourselves and how to protect the organizations that we're representing. And, you know, when I say organizations, you know, that can be you as an employee, it can be you as a self-employed person, it can be you as a homebody or a retired person. But there are definitely lots of things that users, anyone who has a computer or a mobile device, or quite frankly is on the internet, you know, needs to know to protect that. So what has come about are obviously opportunities to learn more. And one of those opportunities is this course by EC Council called CSCU. And CSCU is really all about empowering the user or empowering the worker with that information that is really going to help them stay secure, be efficient, and be in control of their networking environment in order to stay safe. So EC Council, as I mentioned, so Certified Secure Computer User is the name of the course. Really an introduction into the world of being safe. Now, is this course going to make you an expert in cybersecurity? No. It really is targeted for individual users who aren't necessarily seeking a career in cybersecurity, but understand that they need to know more, or that their employer wants them to learn more. And so there's an opportunity here through this course to be able to become more vigilant, become a little bit more of an expert, to understand the basics, to be able to learn and to function and to know right or wrong as it relates to cybersecurity. So who are the EC Council? Well, I mean, EC Council is not an everyday name brand that people hear about. Really, it is an organization that was set up many, many years ago after 2001 and the incidents of 9/11. And really, its official name is the International Council of E-Commerce Consultants, but really they morphed into a cybersecurity technical certification body. And they have a lot of different certifications. Many of them are pointed at um, experts. I'm just going to uh, change my screen if I can figure out how to do that. Just give me a sec, and I will pull up my browser here. So if you go to their website, just seeing here, there it is, on eccouncil.org, you can see that really they are set up to be an administrator of education when it comes to cybersecurity. And a lot of their courses, as you can see, they have a lot of professionals who are certified. They have a lot of experts in the field, and they're really global, and they have a lot of certification programs. As you can see, as I scroll through this, most of them are there for basic to intermediary to advanced cybersecurity courses. Some of them, for instance, like the ethical hacker or the CEH, are really advanced in terms of helping people achieve specific skills. We have one, for instance, like this one, which I hold, which is a Certified Chief Information Security Officer, or CCISO. And then there are other ones that are there for entry level into starting careers into disaster recovery. And then this one, which we're talking about, which is the Certified Secure Computer User. So just as I scroll through this website, and you can see there's a lot of information that you can learn. We're going to talk about it, of course, here, but eccouncil.org is really the place where all this is set up, and you can learn much more. So let me go back to my presentation here. Here it is. Go back to full screen. So how is this program delivered? Well, EC Council is very flexible. It really is designed as a 2-day course, so 16 hours. It can be done all at once, it can be done in chunks, and really their venue is set up in many ways. Of course, right now we don't have that in-house model, but it often is done in-house or in an employer's office or in a training facility, but also can be done online, and that online can be done with an instructor, similar to myself, leading the one through the course, or they even have a self-paced piece to it as well for those that really are keen to learn at their own speed. So what is this course really all about? So if we look at it, as I mentioned, it really is designed to provide individuals with the knowledge and skills to protect assets. So it really is going to help students, and they do it in a very interactive way, which is fabulous from that aspect, to acquire those fundamental learnings. So really to understand some basic key things about computer and network security. We're going to talk about those and break them down, but a whole bunch of pieces that are really in the world today that as individuals we're going to see, and that they really will be front and center if you haven't already seen them kind of pop up in the world that you do. And it really is designed for anyone, literally anyone who uses a computer and that are on the internet, because that really is where the threat exists. So I wanted to break down, kind of go through the sections that this 2-day course covers. Again, this is not, I'm not here to teach you in an hour about or teach you the CSCU course within an hour, but really help you understand what is involved, to help you really understand, is this the kind of course that I should take, or I should be asking my employer as an example of something that I should take that would help. So first off, it starts with an introduction to security. I think that's always fundamentally there. Really understand, what is the world of security in today's information age? What are those threats? I can tell you, being a practitioner in this space for a long, long time, that the threats are there. The threats are everywhere around us. And, even with COVID, in fact, the threats have become larger and larger as we go, and as really the pervasiveness of the attacks as they try to take advantage of the COVID situation, of people's need to learn more. People are spending more time online and at their home. Really understand from an introduction perspective, really what are the losses and what are the threats. As I mentioned briefly, a lot of those around can be monetary, they can be about reputation, they can be about information and personal information, where we start worrying about privacy and pieces related to privacy and how that is. And then really about why organizations need to implement security and why they need to bring it in. Um, then the course talks about operating systems, because of course, if we look at computers, we have to have an operating system. So really the course focuses on Windows and Macs. Those aren't the only two operating systems, but they are the two most common operating systems if you're going to have a computer, either in the office or at home. And it covers, those basic guidelines on how to secure Windows, how to secure a Mac. A lot of it has to do with patching, but it's not just about the patching. There's a lot to do with, securing and making sure settings are on, making sure your Wi-Fi is set up properly, making sure you're not, giving too much access to your computer to others around you. And so a little bit of the time in the course is focused on securing those operating systems. Then there is a chunk on malware. And I think malware and antivirus is a really big area that touches home for a lot of people. So we're talking about those applications or those threats when people click on links in their emails, or if they get a file. That is what malware is. So we learned, briefly about what is malware, what are the different types of malware, what can happen with malware, and what can happen to your computer if you have an infection related to malware. So a lot of times it has to do with, the computer starts acting funny, or it doesn't respond, or something pops up on the screen. But this is where we see a lot of things like ransomware and, computers and files getting encrypted. So we talk about the different types of malware, and then it talks about how to deal with it. So dealing with it means running something like antivirus or endpoint protection on the computer, how to configure it, how to use it properly. If you have an organization and you have a work computer, usually this is part of that computer, but you want to make sure, especially when you're a remote worker, that it's working properly. So they teach you briefly how to use it, and then how to really see if it's doing it, and how to run those type of scans and go through that. I see that we're having some chat stuff coming on here. That's great. I'll cover that at the end, so don't worry. I'll talk about those pieces as they pertain. As we continue to talk about the course and what is offered, there's a big piece on internet security. So everyone's on the internet. We're on the internet right now. It's a great means of learning and collaborating, but it's full of demons and dangers, and they all lurk. So a lot of what we do on the internet has to do with our web browsers. So, understanding what web browsers are, what they do, what are the pitfalls of web browsers. There's so many out there. Majority of users, are on Windows, they're using, Chrome or Firefox or Edge. There's so many others on Macs, could be Safari or Chrome or Firefox or others as well. But there's ways to learn how to use it properly. Again, it needs to be patched like everything else. Understanding when one goes to a website, if the website's protected by SSL or by encryption. And then it talks a bit about child safety. And this is important too, and very important to EC Council on child online safety, and giving some tips on how to keep your children safe online, how to ensure that they're going to websites. What can you do to make sure that your websites and your access to the browser are going potentially to safe sites? And there are a lot of things that can be done by individuals to tackle that. And then IM, or instant messaging, whether it be chat on Zoom, on Teams, on all these video conferencing tools, that is covered as well. Security on social networking sites. So yes, a lot of people do this on their mobile devices, and safety has to be done there too. Don't get me wrong. But when one's doing it on one's computer, again, there are a lot of pitfalls, a lot of dangers. So understanding the concepts of social networking, why it's there, what happens when you send a message, what happens when you post videos or pictures or comments, really the threats that abound. One of the phrases, for instance, you might have been hearing lately is on Zoom bombing. And although Zoom's not a social networking site, it still has a chat area. And that has really led to a lot of the threats within Zoom. And then really focusing on Facebook and Twitter, because really these are the two areas that are very, very large. Instagram is there as well, but Facebook and Twitter are really areas that people are putting a lot of information, doing a lot of chatting, a lot of posting, and there's a lot of inherent risk on what you do and what you say. You have to believe me when I tell you that within Facebook and Twitter, a lot of personal information gets posted, and that type of information, for those that know how to find it, can be very detrimental and used against you in identity theft and other means and social engineering and other threats that really can impact people personally, as well as as representatives or employees of their organizations. So part of the course again focuses on that social networking and what the dangers that are within there. The next area is on email communication. So I already mentioned to you, I'll mention it again, email is the #1 threat vector for individuals and how hackers are getting to those users who really don't know enough. And, I would say 80% of threats that arrive or come to a company or to an employee come via email. And that threat can be an attachment in an email. It can be a specially crafted page that even when you go to it, it launches something that is illicit. Or it can be, that coaxing or that phishing. And phishing is really prompting an individual to do something that in the belief that they're doing the right thing when in fact they're not. But it could be a page where they believe they're being asked to go to a website. They believe it's Microsoft or their company portal or even to a Facebook page or their banking logon page, and they enter their credentials, which that itself is not dangerous, but of course those credentials end up in the hands of thieves, and that information then is used nefariously to gather other information, or to, as I mentioned, to get identity theft, or to pose as you to be able to get access to your systems or to your files. So there are a lot of threats in email. So it's very, very important for individuals to learn what security is needed within email. We live in email very, very heavily. I get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. Not all of them are legitimate, obviously. We all get phishing emails. We all get spam emails. We have to understand the security that happens, the threats that exist, and then really how we should be or how we can be protecting ourselves. So, part of it lies on our employer to put in some security controls, but they're pieces that we have to do alone. Remember, users are the weakest link, and users are the ones that are going to click on that link. And, we rely on our employers or our email systems or Microsoft or Yahoo or Gmail, whatever that provider is, to try to prevent some of those emails from landing in our inbox, but they still arrive. They can't catch all of them. And the weakest link is then the person who clicks on that attachment, that clicks on that link within that email. And that's when the trouble can begin. So, the course is going to teach those concepts of things that you can do as an individual. Learn the basics to understand what is and is not a threat. Again, very interactive, good examples through the course. They'll show you samples of how that happens, samples of what they look like. I wish I had more time. I'd show you some now myself. But that is kind of the big area and a lot of focus, and I think is a very important part of this course related to the email communications. Then there is a section on mobile devices. So yes, today, many more of us are relying on our laptops or desktops because we're home, we're quarantined, we're not wandering far. But, in everyday world, we all have mobile devices. I mean, here's mine. I mean, I'm never far away from mine. I'm sure all of you are the same. most of us have a mobile device. Most of us have a smartphone and not just a flip phone. But most of us have that device, and that has the same access to email, the same access to browser, and worse, it has access to applications. And we go to the App Store or the Google Play Store, and I use those as the two, common, Android and iOS being the two common operating systems on mobile devices. And, they really become dangerous as well. And, just because it's not on a computer doesn't mean it's immune from the dangers. They still lurk. You can still click on links. You can still expose yourself. You can still fill in information on a website by clicking on a link. So it's important to understand the differences between the threats that abound on our desktops and the threats that exist on mobile devices, because we need to secure those a bit as well. And some of us have, more than one device. We may have a work mobile device, we may have a personal device. And really, a lot can be learned then, and not only on protecting our computers and our mobile devices for work, but also our personal ones. So we have to understand those security concepts that exist for mobile devices. We have to understand those threats that are specific to mobile devices. There is malware, and there are things that can happen. Applications are posted into the App Store and Google Play Store that have malware embedded in them. And so we have to be careful in what we're doing. We have to understand the security procedures we should be taking on our mobile devices, things like using a PIN to log in, having multi-factor, using biometrics perhaps on securing our phone. Think about what would happen, for instance, if you lose your phone, or you leave it in the car and someone breaks in and steals it, or you drop it when you're out for a dog walk or out at the park. Of course, doing social distancing. But if someone were to get on your phone, if that protection is not on it, everything on that phone becomes accessible. So, we want to learn how to secure that. So the course will go into how to secure your iPhone and iPad devices. They're both running on iOS. Understanding securing Android devices and all the flavors of Android. The course, while it's on here, though not prevalent and not a lot of time on it, there's a little bit spoken about Windows devices. Windows did have an operating system, not widely used anymore, but it still exists. Much like some people still cling to their BlackBerries. And talk about what kind of tools are out there and what individuals can do. There are applications that are good, that have a security focus, that you can install, that can help you as well in this space. Securing the cloud. So, the cloud is big. The cloud is, ever present. Companies and organizations know all about the cloud, but I think individuals, are using a part of that cloud in their everyday work. If you're using Office 365 for work, if you use Google Apps, if your children are on Google for education, if you use OneDrive, Dropbox, Box.com, iCloud, the list goes on and on and on. You're putting information into the cloud. So, there is important then for individuals to understand, not to become experts about the cloud, but understand the concepts and the basics of what the cloud is, what is going on in cloud, how it works, what is this cloud thing, and then why there are still threats to that. In essence, you're putting what the cloud is really using servers and systems and data centers that are outside of your workplace or outside of your organization. Threats come there too. Threats are everywhere. I think that's pretty clear. But there are threats to cloud and protecting what pieces are out there. So it's important to safeguard it, not just to rely on, for instance, the cloud service provider, whether that be Microsoft or Amazon or your bank, even, what is it that are those threats, understanding privacy, every time you fill out a form or, you register as a user for a website or for a forum or for accessing, cloud services, you're putting your information in there. What should you be worried about? Why is there a potential for privacy issues? How can you address it? What should you be looking for to make sure that you address it, and how to choose a good cloud service provider? There are a lot of providers, offering similar functions. Some of them are good and some of them are less good. And it's important to understand, if you're an individual or an organization, understand on what deems a good and a less good cloud service provider. And a lot of that hinges on how they protect your data, how they address privacy, and how they address cybersecurity. I have to take a sip of coffee. We're ready to keep going. Securing network connections. So, right now we have, all of us to connect to the internet, we have to use some form of network connections. When you're in the office or in the workplace, either you'd have a desktop that's always on, or you're plugging your laptop and, it has Wi-Fi and it suddenly works and you're, boom, you have access to everything. That's great. It's been taken care of. But it isn't always that easy, and especially if you are a remote worker, as many of us are now. You have to rely on network connections in your house. You rely on your ISP, your internet service provider. You may have a router or a Wi-Fi box in your house. You're plugging in and having access to the internet, or to connecting back to your office. But that's a network connection, and it's important for individuals. Yes, it's easy when you're at work and it doesn't work. You call IT, a help desk, someone comes, they fixes it. But when you're at home, when you're under COVID quarantine, if you're self-employed, if you're somewhere else, you have to understand some basics on network connections. A lot of that focuses on wireless. So, some of you, myself, I plug in my network cable into my computer and plug it straight into my my internet box. It gives me better, stable internet. But most people use Wi-Fi, and there's Wi-Fi in my house too. By the way, I have 38 devices in my house connected to my Wi-Fi. It's kind of scary, but 38. So, it's understanding the how to set up a wireless network. And, there are different components to it. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with the box that's provided to you by your ISP, or you may go out to a store and buy a new, more powerful Wi-Fi router to give you, more power and better signal connection. So you have to secure that. That will come with its own GUI. You have to learn how to be able to log into that, how to change, default passwords, how to make sure the settings, how to pick a good, SSID, or that name that you see when you're seeing all your Wi-Fi connection. But you also have to secure your device that's connecting to it. So understanding how to do that on your computer, whether it be a Windows or a Mac, to understand there are things you can do on your computer as well to effectively set up and secure or connect it to a secure network. And, big differences between connecting to an insecure network and one that is secure. You always want to have that encrypted connection on your wireless to ensure that you're staying secure and those communications are going through the air. Understanding the threats to the router, as I mentioned, and the pieces that you can do there, and some, again, the ways to secure those network connections, as I said, changing default passwords, turning on, the more secure encryption protocol, WPA2 or WPA3, for example. You'll learn about what those are and why those are important, and really how to ensure that your network stays safe. Data backup and disaster recovery. So, one of the key things for here, and again, in an organization, you plug in, you don't worry about it again. Your IT department at the office might be doing it, but there's still pieces, especially with home users right now, to understand backup and disaster recovery. Not, again, to be an expert on it, but understand some basic concepts. So, for instance, how does one back up? What things does one want to consider to back up? Why should you back up? What are the different types of ways to back up? Do you back up your whole computer? Do you back up some files? Do you have to back up if you're putting things into OneDrive, personal or business OneDrive, or Dropbox, or the like? And then how to deal with backups. What can you do on your Windows device? What can you do on your Mac device, whether it be through built-in tools, going out and buying a external hard drive, putting files into the cloud onto a USB key, various different ways and different places to put your backup, how to do it on a Windows or a Mac OS device. And then, understanding then, hey, that's great to have stuff on your device and how to keep it secure, but should you be always worried about, what do you do when the data is old? Like, what do you do with that USB key 5 years from now? And, the important things of putting it away, or, do you have to worry about do you have to worry about destruction and putting that data away, so that you don't throw it away, or it doesn't end up in the garbage? How do you get rid of and destroy data? Should you be just tossing that old USB key in the garbage? If you have an old hard drive, or even an external hard drive, do you put that in a recycling bin? Should you be destroying it? Understanding why it's important to get rid of old things like that. So this basically, in a nutshell, is what 2 days covers. A lot of topics, again, very much defined by it. And the great thing about this course, for those that are interested, is it actually comes with an exam. For those that want to take an exam, you actually can go get a certificate related to what you learn over those 2 days. Not everyone is into certification or wants to get tested on it, but EC Council sets up courses to be certification based. In this one, it's the CSCU exam, done via an exam portal, so the exam testing is online. And really, it is 50 questions based on the information that is learned in those 2 days. 70% is required to pass. You have 2 hours, and if successful, you're granted a certificate. So it's great for individuals that want to go to their employers and say, hey, can I take this course? It offers it as a certificate. I can prove that I've taken it and that I learned something. It's great to feel proud about accomplishment. And it really is something that, for those that want it, it is a good avenue to learn about or have that piece of paper and that certification and feel like one has learned something important. Multiple choice, so there's no writing, there's no test questions, or here's a network diagram, tell me what all these components are, nothing like that. But really covering the fundamentals kind of what I spoke about that you learn over those 2 days. So, really the course is about, learning to protect. And, we didn't talk about all the other threats that are out there, the fraud, the bullying, all the other things that can happen. But it is so important for everyone to be able to protect themselves and to protect, your organization, whether it be as an individual or as a member of your organization. And this is a great way to learn something and learn those basics as they pertain to cybersecurity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the chat. Let's see if we have any questions. So yeah, Daniel, yes, I think the course sounds interesting too. It's something, as I said, as a seasoned security person, not for me, but great for those that, know very little or nothing about cybersecurity and want to learn those fundamentals, learn a little more about what cybersecurity is about and have, be able to protect oneself. What do we have here? Does this course prepare someone to learn how to do pen testing? So no. So this course is not about doing advanced pieces like pen testing. There are courses to do that. EC Council has some of those. There are other service providers as well. Really it's about, again, the fundamentals. You know, it may be a jumping board for those that say, hey, maybe I want to start a career in cybersecurity. You know what, all the threats that are out there, that sounds really interesting. You know, I want to become a security professional. So, you know, learning more about that, but, you know, if interested, go to the EC Council website, you know, or go to others. There are a lot of things to learn, a lot of ways to be good guys in the battle of cyber. Not everyone in cyber is bad. People like myself are on the good side. But, you know, there are lots to learn about cybersecurity. I think that is it. I'm just going through it. Does anyone else have any other questions? You know, I want to ensure that, you know, everyone is has the fundamentals. As I said, you can learn far more about the course by going to the EC Council website. You can do the course online. You can do, especially today, the course is online, it's self-paced, or you can do it through an instructor-led. You know, some people like having someone help them, but they have an interactive course. About the costs, I see the question here. The costs vary depending on the training provider. So, you know, EC Council is a certification body. They have training providers that then run those courses worldwide. Depending on where you are, you can find those listed on their website, or, you know, go out and do a web search on what that would cost. It would include the materials that you would learn. You would get those materials. You would have access to those materials. This is a course that I don't believe is overly expensive. Again, it's about introductions to cybersecurity. The goal that EC Council wants to do is really increase the knowledge throughout, to provide that knowledge to more individuals, and really have that ability for more people to understand and protect themselves, and to make the world a safer place. I'll just give a couple more minutes. I know we're a little bit ahead of schedule. A couple more minutes for those. If they have any more questions, please post them on the public session chat. I'm not seeing any. You know, I do thank everybody who has joined us. It has been great. I hope you've learned something here. I'm just holding out a few more minutes. I don't see any more questions. I'm going to turn off my screen share. If there are no more questions, then I will sign off and allow people to go and look about. Again, CyberX, this is the first track on a very, very busy 2 days. I encourage all of you. I am part of the advisory board for CyberX and part of the advisory board. This is a great opportunity for a lot of people to learn a lot of things over the next 2 days. I encourage everyone to use the portal, to go about, to see everything that is available. Use these opportunities to learn from the great speakers that we have. I have another session tomorrow. I'm sitting on a panel, not to plug that particular one, but you know, go out there, explore, learn everything that you can. I welcome all of you for the next 2 days. Have a great day, and we'll see you out there in our sessions. Thanks very much.